Then one day she coming in there talking about some yeah, I broke my door in half and I had to pull my gun out on my kids since this and that. Well, you know, telling us that like the fuck you telling us you pulled a gun out on your kids for? You sound like a fucking psychopath. That's what I wanted to tell her. She was talking about some she blacked out. I'm like, yeah, you must have had blacked out if you pulled the gun out on your kids. Like, you know, like I'm like, what the fuck you telling me this for? Like to think she's like trying to make it seem like that she big dog or some shit. Give a fuck about you telling me about you pulling the gun out on a kid. I don't fucking like that shit doesn't scare me. You know what I mean? That shit doesn't scare me. If she thought she was trying to intimidate me, that shit didn't intimidate me at all. I don't give a fuck about her telling me about what the fuck she did. You know, and maybe that's why they always fighting her to defend themselves. They probably felt like their life was threatened. The fuck out of here with that shit. I'm just sitting at this park right now. I wanted to I had to talk to my neighbor Wayne again and like clear up everything with him, because how I said how like he's always like he always like look at me a certain way or something, and I told him that like I don't want to have sex. I told him that. So it's like, you know, sometimes he would give me something to eat or something if I didn't make anyone on Instacart. I get that, but I told him like I don't want him thinking that that I owe him that just because he do that for me. Sometimes I don't want him to think that I owe him sex. So now, like, after I told him that, it's like he's been crying and crying and telling me he think I use him, dismissing everything that I do for him and did for him, dismissing the fact that he had this condition that he'd been going through for a long time and nobody can help him but me. I helped him get through it, and I cook, and you know, I don't have a lot of money, but I still make money at work, but you know, I don't have a car right now. I'm still working to get in a car, and he feels like I owe him sex, and now he's mad and crying and trying to make me feel guilty. I need to just calm down. I'm gonna be okay. But I should have known. I'm playing my peaceful music so I don't have to listen to you doing this, and you're interrupting my music, calling my phone. Please leave me alone. Stop fucking with me! Leave me alone! Leave me alone! Please! Leave me alone! Please! Please leave me alone! I don't want to have sex with you! I don't want to have sex! So stop! I really talked to myself! I don't want to have sex with you! Okay? Okay? Thank you! I got sent home early yesterday. I got sent home early today by the same person. I'm telling you, she's a bully. This shit isn't funny. She needs to understand that just because she's a mother and got children doesn't mean that she can come in the store, you know, disrespecting people, talking to them like everybody's beneath her. She has no respect. And it isn't funny at all. Like, seriously, man, I got shit I gotta take care of. And she keeps sending me home early. It's not funny. She's playing games. And then all day, throughout the day, she keeps saying her little racial shit. And then throughout the day, she keeps on like putting negative energy in the air, talking about people, gossiping about people. It's not funny, man. That shit gonna have to stop. She's a bully. I'm telling you. She's a bully. She brings a lot of negative energy in there. she always panic when it's a lot going on, and then she try to manipulate that and make it seem like we ain't doing something right, but we are working really hard and doing great. It's just the fact that she panicked, and I caught her a few times making a mistake, and she tried to hurry up and play it off. You know, nobody's perfect. It's fucking McDonald's. It happens. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes, like, somebody might get confused. So fuck, it gets busy, yeah. But she needs to stop playing like she don't be making mistakes. I be catching her. So her, all that animosity and shit that she keep putting in the air and stuff, then trying to tell me, I'm always snapping on people. No, that's false. No, I don't snap on people. I don't go in there doing that. I tell her, no, I make peace. That's what I'm doing. I've been creating peace. So all that negative energy that she's bringing in there and trying to manipulate it, no, that's going to stop. All that negative shit she's saying about, you know, her personal life, all of that. No, she's bringing all of that in there and then playing games saying she want to take her belt off and beat somebody. Y'all act like my kids in here. No, we ain't your kids. Respect us. Stop talking to us like that. That shit is crazy. I'm telling you. But to get sent home 2 days in a row, man, and I came in on my off day to make up my time, and she still sends me home early, it's not funny. Somebody will have to do something about that. It's not funny. It's not fair. It isn't funny at all. So, you know, she could keep being a bully if she wants to, but that shit is going to catch up to her. Because it ain't funny at all. It ain't.
I wanted to address this situation pertaining to the video before this one. And there's a lot of point of views going around. I not too long did a video about opposing perceptions, you know, different point of views and everything. What I've noticed is that people get themselves emotionally involved in the act itself instead of doing research on the possibilities in which led up to those type of situations, to where it led to a very unfortunate situation for both of the women. I'm just going to go right into it. Now, the reason why I'm not going to mention their names is because what I would like to do is to make this solely a humanitarian issue in terms of how we treat one another and how we lack compassion for one another and our unwillingness to communicate and reason together because of the lack of compassion. I'm talking about a humanitarian thing. I'm talking about the human family. So sometimes whenever you mention names and everything, that causes divisiveness, you know, and sometimes you make it personal on a whole nother divisive type perception because of them certain people agreeing with what the young lady did to her manager, and you have people out here saying that the manager deserved it because the manager was harassing her and all of that, and so the manager was a victim or the manager was a bully or whatever the case may be. And all of those things are understandable, but two people lost their lives. Two women negated and discarded the sisterhood that supposedly had been going on in these days and time. And they just forgot all about that. And they went against one another. And this unfortunate act happened to where actually they both lost their lives. One is deceased and one lost her life because she's going to be in prison for the rest of her days. So they both lost their lives. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. So what you're dealing with is two women who were both suffering in their lives. You had a mother at home. She's struggling, and therefore she's suffering to take care of her 6 kids. Now, it's easy for people to say, well, where are the fathers at? Fine. If that's how you want to look at it, fine. Do a video about it. But I'm not concerned about where the father is. And I don't really care where he is, or where he is. Whether he's being irresponsible or he could be deceased. But that's not the issue. The issue is you have a mother who was a manager at a McDonald's institution who was suffering and under a lot of strain because she had to work in order for her to take care of her 6 kids. Then you had a young lady who is an eccentric. She's different. Okay? However, they're both working up under the same institution and they're both trying to survive. So you have a young lady who is being sexually harassed by her landlord, and she's under tremendous pressure and she's under tremendous strain trying to maintain her self-control. You have a mother who is working hard every day, taking care of her 6 children, who was under so much pressure and strain. According to the young lady, this woman who was a mother of 6 developed some type of mental illness because she's coming to work and she's talking about kicking her kid's door in and she's pulling her gun on her 6 kids. Now, whether this is true or not, this is what was said. Okay? However, when you go to work and you tell people who are strangers things like this, you have developed a mental illness. And then you have a young lady who is being sexually harassed by her landlord, who's trying to keep herself together and up on top of being an eccentric because of the pressure that she's under and the strain that she's under, not only by her landlord, but her boss at work who's cut her hours in half and keeps sending her home. And so now she has to worry about bills. And therefore, she's not going to be able to accumulate enough funds in order to satisfy her landlord, who is on a daily basis sexually harassing her and demanding sex from her. Now, with all of that, she is developing her status of mental illness because she is suffering. So you have 2 women who are suffering tremendously. And so they're in the same environment. They're in the very same environment. And they're acting out. They're both acting out. And so you have a manager who has obviously something against people who are somewhat different. And so you have a young lady who is, like I said, an eccentric, which means a person who the general public would perceive as kind of odd, strange. You know how our community is. If you're not on the same bandwagon with everyone else in terms of what the culture is doing um, in lines of the current trend, then you're different. Because I've been suffering that all of my life. That's why I left the Black community be. But that's a whole different subject. So don't even bother inviting me to your barbecues because I'm not coming. But the whole thing is, you have a young lady who has been rejected. Where is her parents? Where's her father? Black man, you getting it next. However, you have two women like this who have no compassion for one another. Obviously, the young lady was trying to deal with it. She said she was trying to communicate with her. So she had enough compassion for the will to try to communicate and to connect with this woman, for her to be able to maintain a good working relationship, that she may be able to maintain employment. However, the woman who's under tremendous pressure trying to take care of her 6 kids, which also implies, I don't know if her 6 kids were by the same guy or multiple people, but that's also none of my business, and it's none of your business. The whole thing is, obviously none of those fathers were in her life, and that's one of the reasons why she had to work so hard in order to take care of her 6 kids. So yes, black man, you are at fault with this as well, on both sides. So I'm looking at a whole lot of black men, they have the nerve to point the finger at both of these women. However, I'm looking at the comments and I don't see any men down there asking about where are the fathers, where are the men in these scenarios. Now, this is according to what I've seen. Now, there may be some posts out there to where you have men as myself asking where the fathers are. I'm not saying that they don't exist. However, according to the language of the young lady and the language of the woman, according to the young lady, these fathers are nowhere to be seen, because these fathers are nowhere around. And so you have a young lady who has been left in a position of to be vulnerable to the sexual advantages of her landlord, because this woman keeps cutting her hours, and this is putting her in the position to where she has to come in contact with her landlord more than she desires. And because she's trying to maintain a place to live, she's trying to do everything that she can without losing her self-respect in order to maintain a place to live. So you have 2 women who are suffering. So they're both ticking time bombs. So sometimes when you're suffering and you get to the point to where you don't want to communicate between one another anymore, and you pretty much put each other in a state of desolation, or you might as well say like isolation, to try to deal with your issues. But at the same time, the reason why both of your issues are going to eventually clash is because you both have refused to come together and reason together so that you can resolve and heal the situation. So this back and forth that's going on, you're taking sides on 2 women who are suffering instead of looking at what actually is happening to these 2 women, because they lack compassion and the will to communicate anymore. And so they're both not communicating with one another. And then the weaker one snaps because she's under so much tremendous pressure. She snaps. Or crash out, like y'all trying to say today. It's always something. And she goes to work and she stabs her sister to death. Then you point at her. She's crazy. She's mentally ill. Why? Because they both were suffering from mental illness, because no one was trying to help one another to try to keep their minds together. Where were you, black man? Where were you at? Now, a lot of people say, and people say all the time, and I have to agree, black women are very difficult to deal with today. Yeah, they are. And this should open up all of our eyes with that perception, which makes us lack an interest of helping this black woman or these black women resolve their issues. So this is your fault too, black. It is. It's all of our faults that this happened. Everyone, black women and black men, you have to take accountability for what happened between these two beautiful sisters. We have to take accountability. We have to be there for one another. If y'all want this sisterhood thing to be beneficial to both, to stop going against one another. And the older women are supposed to be loving and a counsel element to the younger. And by this woman having daughters at home, it amazes me of how she was not able to have enough compassion for this young lady to demonstrate some type of compassion for her. I don't know the situation entirely, but I'm going to share this with you. Brother Kevin Samuels, they say, now where's he going with this? Brother Kevin Samuels, rest in peace, started talking about it's not good to date women who have children. I understand it. However, I'm not trying to say that I'm better than anyone. I just see things different. I don't have a problem being with a woman who have children. Oh, this dude is a simp. I don't care what you call me. Your words don't move. Okay? And all of this simp and all that stuff. It's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. Because that's a form of supporting a mentality which actually serves as a source of neglect when it comes to children who need male figures in their life. When you come into women who have children who need that male image in them. Some of you are willing to do it, some of you are not, and you have that choice. However, I'm the type of man to where whenever I dated a woman who had kids, those were my kids day one. I dated this very beautiful, her name was Jennifer. She was this beautiful sister. I used to call her my lovely chocolate because she was She was like a dark cherry complexion. The first night we spent the night together, she had called me and she said, "David, what are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm just relaxing. She said, "Well, you need to come and get me." I'm like, "Right now?" She said, "Yeah." So uh, uh, I got my car, and I would have to admit I was kind of heavy footed driving across town because Jennifer was just drop dead gorgeous. I go and I pick her up. Jennifer had 3 daughters and she had 1 son. I went to pick her up and she's ready to go. And one of her daughters, I believe she was 14 years old. And she said, "Well, Mom, it ain't nothing in here to eat." And Jennifer said, "Well, I'll be back tomorrow. And so y'all be all right." So we go out to the car. I get in the car. And I know that it was the divine telling me, "What type of man? Are you serious? I put this before you. What are you gonna do about it?" So I looked over at her. I'm like, "You know what? I got a question." And she said, "What's that?" I said, "How could you leave knowing that your children are home?" And she said, "Oh, they gonna be all right. Come on, let's go." I'm like, "No, come on, let's go upstairs. That's where we go." And she said, "What?" I said, "Come on." I said, "Because our first night together can't be like this." I said, I can't live like this." So I went upstairs. Well, we went upstairs. I don't want to make it seem as though she was waiting in the car because she didn't stay. And so I went upstairs. We went upstairs. And I said, "What do y'all want to eat?" And the young lady said, "Why?" I said, "Because I'm gonna give y'all some money, to order something to eat." She said, "I don't know, we just hungry." I gave her $60. "Here, buy y'all some pizza or whatever." And they was like, "Oh, you don't even know us." They were so thankful. We go down to the car. We get in. Jennifer looks over at me. She says, "You didn't have to do that. Those are not your kids." I said, "Those are my kids." I said, "If I'm with you, those are my children." Now, a whole lot of guys will say, and it's been different times of where men would come over to their baby mama's house. I say the mother of your children's home, who just so happen to have children by other men, but you're just gonna bring food simply for your children, when you know that there are other children there. Because if your child is home, you better believe the rest of them are home. So what type of human being are you? You just gonna serve yours and not the rest? Those are your children too. Because your children share the same blood as those children because they all have the same mother. Now people may say, "Well, you didn't have children by Jennifer." You're right, I didn't. But I'm a spiritual man. And if I'm going to have dealings with her, I'm going to have dealings with her children. And there was no way in the world that I was going to stand there and see those children go hungry. And I'm sitting and I'm standing there with $857 in my pocket. No, they were not going to go hungry. Not overnight. So the whole thing is, the reason why I bring all that up is the biggest form of abuse to children is the absence of their father figure or their father. Here's a young lady. She's out here struggling, and she's different. She has a landlord trying to take advantage of her because she keeps coming up short on her rent because you got a woman at work who is suffering just the same as her. She's lashing out at the world because she's exhausted because she is trying to take care of her 6 children. So she's lashing out at everybody. And people say, well, she shouldn't do that. Well, it's not personal. It's the effects of not having a man by her side to take some of that weight off of her. Just the same as a young lady not having a male figure in her life to see to it that she's safe from being violated by strange men with mental illness. So you had 2 women who are suffering tremendously. And no one was in their lives to protect them from themselves in order to protect one another from one another. That's the point. This is the importance of men being involved, not only with their children in reference to having a strong relationship with the mother of your children, but this is very important of men involving themselves in women to the degree that young lady wouldn't have been able to call one of her male friends and say, hey, can you come over here and talk to this man and let him know that I have someone in my life that's willing to stand up for me. Where are you, black man? Where are we? Where are we when it comes to our women? We've lost 2 sisters because we were not present. Regardless of this strong and independent thing that black women fell victim to because of the, not only started with the feminist movement, but it developed through time to where this is what we're dealing with right now. And our families are falling apart. And because of our families falling apart, we're falling apart. And this is what this all comes to. I wanted to address this because we have to understand how important it is for us to reason together and look at things objectively to where we won't always point the finger at one or the other. We have to look at the situation objectively and find out how we as a human family can prevent this from transpiring again. That's the point. So I'm speaking on this based upon the human family, and simply because this transpired between 2 black women. This is not a racial thing, because this can transpire in any community, and it has. Because a young lady perceived her as a bully. She's bullying me. And she felt like she couldn't go to anyone in the McDonald's institution to try to deal with the situation in order for her to resolve it. And so she kept being pushed. She kept being pushed by a woman who was in just as much pain and agony as she was. Just similar situations. It wasn't the same situation, but the situations were similar. And it caused an effect on both of them. And this is what you end up with. So I just wanted to address that. I didn't expect this video to be so long, but because I usually don't even cover things like this, but I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that this is getting out. I hope this video gets around so that everybody can see the entire picture instead of half of it or just a little bit of it. So with that being said, everyone, please stay human and everyone look out for one another. Okay? Y'all have a good night. Peace. You know, they say, you never know what you're dealing with. You never know what people are going through. Of course not. Especially if you're not willing to have enough compassion and to communicate with the person, just so you can find out exactly the primary reason on why they are the way that they are, regarding some of the things that they're saying, some of the things that they're doing. If you don't take the time out to communicate with someone, you're right. You will not know what you're dealing with because you do not know who you're dealing with. You don't know what people are going through. People are going through things. And in spite of what we are going through on a personal basis, we should always have enough humility to understand that other people are going through things as well. And if you don't have that state of humility, then it means you lack stability. And that takes away from your state of humanity. It means you only care about what you're going through. And even though you know fundamentally that other people are going through things, you totally discard that because you're only concerned about what you are going through on a personal basis. And that's not being civil, because you lack humility due to the fact that you lack compassion. You know, considering my past video, what I've come to realize even more so, because not too long ago, I made a video. This was close to like 2 years ago. The title of it is, Has Comprehension Become a Myth? What I've noticed with this case, with this young lady killing her manager at McDonald's, is how people will perceive things emotionally and intensely to the point to where all comprehension flees them. They say, well, I don't care what she's going through. It was wrong that she killed her manager, and you shouldn't justify it. So trying to find out why things escalated to that particular capacity is a man justifying that. How do you get there? How do you comprehend something like that? This is what I want to know. People were saying, oh, there was a reason why she sent her home. She sent home a murderer. Really? And I'm just going off of some of the statements that were thrown at me. She sent home a murderer. So basically what you're saying through your comprehension is that this woman knew that this young lady was a murderer. And so she sent her home. They say no. She sent her home because obviously she wasn't doing her job. Well, maybe so. But you just got through telling me that the manager sent home a murderer. Now, if you think that someone whom you're working with is a murderer, me, I would call the cops. I wouldn't just send them home. Why would I send them home if I perceived that they were a murderer? Why would I send them home? I would just call the cops and have the police come and apprehend them. That's what I would. But when you're caught up in your emotions, just get away from me, go home. Am I saying that this is what the woman did? No. I'm saying that this is what you said she did, because you said that she sent home a murderer. So you're saying that the woman knew that this young lady was a murderer, so she sent her home. I'm going off of what you people were telling me. So you're saying that the girl went home, she got a butcher knife, she came back and she snapped and killed her manager. Because her manager sent her home because she was a murderer. This is according to the statement from you folks. This is where your comprehension skills are lying right now. This is where you're at. This is where you are. So when someone explains to you that communication is key before they act, you say she was just a murderer. That is why she sent her home. She sent her home. She sent home someone who she perceived as a murderer. This is what you're telling me. This is what you think that you're attacking me. I would think that she would have just called the police if she thought that the young lady was a murderer. And yes, I'm reading some notes that I read, because these are just some points that I derived from these statements. So by everyone getting emotional, and totally misunderstanding a man that's trying to tell you that compassion leads to the will to communicate, which leads to resolving the issue to prevent unfortunate events. It's justifying what happened. This is what you're telling me. So your emotions getting involved. And so outrageous. I'm so outrageous. It ain't no excuse for that. I didn't give you an excuse. I'm telling you the reason why this transpired. I didn't give you an excuse of why or a justification of this young lady killing her manager. That's not what I gave you. And so I have a question for you. You say this young lady misunderstood this woman because this young lady got caught up in her feelings and she got angry. And so she went home after she snapped and she came back and she stabbed and killed her manager. What is the distinction between you getting emotional with your lack of comprehension and saying that she crashed out, like y'all say, because she was a murderer? Okay, what makes you any different than you getting upset and your comprehension skills just vanish and all of a sudden say that a man who's telling you why that happened is justifying a murder? Where's your comprehension skills? What makes you any different than the young lady who you're calling a murderer, who allowed her emotions to get the best of her to where it was only left the worst of her and she committed the act? What makes you any different than getting all emotionally upset and outraged to the degree your comprehension skills just totally leave you? And you say, I don't care. There's no justification for killing someone. You sound like the young lady who you are calling a murderer, because as far as she was concerned, there's no justification for this woman to send me home, so I'm gonna go back and kill her. Comprehension. You lack comprehension. And basically, you set yourself as an equivalent to this young lady who you call a murderer. What makes you any different than her when you are unwilling to understand what someone is going through? I don't care what she's going through. Then one of you brought up, well, there's a couple of other places. I think they said it was a Taco Bell where the young lady stabbed someone. Then someone said there was a couple of incidents where she had stabbed some co-workers. However, McDonald's still hired. If she stabbed some employees in terms of her previous employment, how come that wasn't documented? Did the people who hired her at McDonald's know this of her past? Do the woman's 6 children have a lawsuit against McDonald's because they hired this woman after she already stabbed 2 people? Who's at fault for this? How come McDonald's didn't have any information on this young lady stabbing a couple of people where she had previously worked. How come you still hired her? How come you still allowed her to be in your midst with a past like that? And if you allow this person to be in your midst knowing about her past, then why are you being so aggressive to her? I'm just speaking. If this person has a bad past of going off on people and stabbing people, it ain't nowhere in the world I'm going to try my hardest to push somebody like that close to the edge, or try to upset them, or try to provoke them. So who's at fault here? Was it the woman who had the 6 kids? If you ask me, I don't think she knew anything about this young lady's past of stabbing someone. Because as far as I'm concerned, a woman who has 6 kids and is intelligent enough to get up every day and go to work to take care of her 6 kids instead of sitting around allowing welfare to take care of her needs. I don't think a woman with that level of intelligence would provoke someone with a past like that. So who's at fault? Who knew about this woman's previous actions at where she was working? But they hired her anyway and put her in the midst of all of these people with a surety that she wouldn't do it again. Who's at fault here? See, this goes deeper than what a whole lot of people want to realize. But as I said before, this day, comprehension is a myth. This day, being outraged and angry and quickly judging someone without investigating why things happen is a form of mental illness, and it's equivalent to the mentality or similar of the mentality that the young lady had. This person that you're talking against, you're not that far to, you're not that much different than her. You're not that much different. If there's no compassion, then there's no humility. And if there's no humility, there's no civility. And if there's no civility, you are not able to communicate effectively and resolve the issue. What happened was very unfortunate. It was very unfortunate, and it never should have escalated to that capacity that this woman had to lose her life. It should have never escalated, but it did. So who's to blame? Outside of Black men not being around, assuming their responsibilities. Who's at fault? How did she stab somebody at another job and was just able to just walk right into a McDonald's job? Someone who has a mentality like that, they need to be in some type of mental institution. But McDonald's hired and put her in the midst of another woman who is suffering also because she's exhausted. And she's coming to work with her level of mental illness because she's talking about how she is pulling guns on her own children. See, you had 2 people who were suffering, like I said in the previous video, who were put in the same environment who were going off on each other, didn't have no compassion for one another. So they didn't want to communicate. Or maybe she tried to communicate with her and the young lady didn't want to listen to her. However, if the young lady didn't want to listen to her, how come she didn't terminate her on grounds of insubordination? See, there's a lot of things that could have been done to avoid this. And the reason why I talk the way that I talk, and it's no big deal, because I've been a manager out here in Las Vegas in a whole lot of instances. And I know how to resolve issues. The only way that you're going to be able to resolve issues, you have to get to the bottom of the issue. And you have to talk to both parties to find out why both parties either said or did what they did and where all of that is coming from. Is there anything going on in your personal life that's making you say these things or doing these things? But obviously that's too intelligent for a whole lot of you. All you care about is, it ain't no excuse for what she did. No one's giving you an excuse. Someone who is trying to investigate why a person is thinking the way that they're thinking, and one of the reasons why they did what they did is not a justification for what they did. You have to find out exactly why a person is thinking a certain way, which leads them to act out in a certain way. That's called intelligence. That's called comprehension. But what I'm seeing, a whole lot of you don't comprehend anything. For a lot of you, comprehension is indeed a myth. We should always have enough humility to understand that other people are going to think as well. And if you don't have that state of humility, then it means you lack civility. And that takes away from your state of humanity. It means you only care about what you're going through. And even though you know fundamentally that other people are going through things, you totally discard that because you're only concerned about what you are going through on a personal basis. And that's not being civil because you lack humility due to the fact that you lack compassion. What I've noticed with this case, with this young lady killing her manager at McDonald's, is how people will perceive things emotionally and intensely to the point to where all comprehension leaves them. They say, well, I don't care what she's going through. It was wrong that she killed her manager, and you shouldn't justify it. So, trying to find out why things escalate to that particular capacity is a man justifying it. How do you get there? How do you comprehend something like that? This is what I want to know. There was a reason why she sent her home. She sent home a murderer. Really? And I'm just going off of some of the statements that were thrown at me. She sent home a murderer. So basically what you're saying through your comprehension is that this woman knew that this young lady was a murderer. And so she sent her home. They say no. She sent her home because obviously she wasn't doing her job. Well, maybe so. But you just got to telling me that the manager sent home a murderer. Now, if you think that someone whom you're working with is a murderer, me, I would call the cops. I wouldn't just send them home. Why would I send them home if I perceived that they were a murderer? Why would I send them home? I would just call the cops and have the police come and apprehend them. That's what I do. So you're saying that the girl went home. She got a butcher knife. She came back and she snapped and killed her manager. Because her manager sent her home because she was a murderer. This is according to the statement from you folks. This is where your comprehension skills are lying right now. This is where you're at. This is where you are. So, when someone explains to you that communication is key before they act, you say, she was just a murderer. That is why she sent her home. She sent her home. She sent home someone who she perceived as a murderer. This is what you're telling me. This is what you think that you're attacking me. I would think that she would have just called the police if she thought that the young lady was a murderer. And yes, I'm reading some notes tonight. Because these are just some points that I derived from these statements. So by everyone getting emotional, and totally misunderstanding of a man that's trying to tell you that compassion leads to the will to communicate, which leads to resolving the issue to prevent unfortunate events. It's justifying what happened. This is what you're telling me. So your emotions getting involved, and so outrageous, I'm so outrageous. It ain't no excuse for that. I didn't give you an excuse. I'm telling you the reason why this transpired. I didn't give you an excuse of why or a justification of this young lady killing her manager. That's not what I gave you. This thing, comprehension, is a myth. This thing, being outraged and angry and quickly judging someone without investigating why things happen, is a form of mental illness. And it's equivalent to the mentality or similar of the mentality that the young lady had. This person that you're talking against, you're not that far to, you're not that much different than her. You're not that much different. If there's no compassion, then there's no humility. And if there's no humility, there's no civility. And if there's no civility, you are not able to communicate effectively and resolve the issue. The only way that you're going to be able to resolve issues, you have to get to the bottom of the issue. And you have to talk to both parties to find out why both parties either said or did what they did and where all of that is coming from. Is there anything going on in your personal life that's making you say these things or doing these things? But obviously that's too intelligent for a whole lot of you. All you care about is, it ain't no excuse for what she did. No one's giving you an excuse. Someone who was trying to investigate why a person is thinking the way that they're thinking, and one of the reasons why they did what they did is not a justification for what they did. You have to find out exactly why a person is thinking a certain way, which leads them to act out in a certain way. That's called intelligence. That's called comprehension. But what I'm seeing, a whole lot of you don't comprehend anything. For a lot of you, comprehension is indeed a myth. This is going to be my final take on this Risen Phoenix issue. Of course, a lot of people, well, I can't say a lot, it was just a few, sent me some emails who still thought that I was trying to justify what happened. And I don't know, I don't understand how much more simple I can make it, other than the fact that your comprehension skills are off. And so this video is really not going to be long, because pretty much my previous video actually said all that needs to be said. So I'm just going to address those people who misunderstood or chose to misunderstand. And it is a lot of you that choose to misunderstand things because you have this desire and this urge to want to be argumentative. And that is one of the primary causes of all of the dysfunction in the quote unquote Black community, primarily from Black women who are who are the main disruptors of the community this day. Now, you can get upset at that all you want to. I could care less. But you are primarily the disruptors of the community this day. This is the reason why the culture has gone straight to trash. Okay? And a whole lot of the young men or the men that a whole lot of you are complaining about are from single mother homes who were raised by Black women. That a lot of you assert that act like women, and I don't see why that is such a surprise, considering that it was you who raised these young men, especially that Messiah that a lot of you are still worshiping under the name of Tupac Shakur. That was another reason why he self-destructed. That's one of the reasons why he would go off the hinges a whole lot about a whole lot of subjects or a whole lot of challenges that wasn't necessarily in demand of these reactions. You know, he reacted instead of responding a whole lot. But the whole issue is, I'll say again, both of those women were dealing with a whole lot of internal problems, both of them. And what prevented this from transpiring, what would have prevented this from transpiring, is if they would have went off to the side and sat down and had an open conversation on one of the reasons why the young lady felt that she was being bullied. That would have gave the supervisor an opportunity to self-analyze herself. And if she even would have disagreed with the young lady on her being this bully, then she would have been able to explain herself to the young lady. Now, had she took the time to communicate with the young lady and asked her, why is she doing thus and so, or why is she not doing thus and so? And one of the reasons why she decides to send her home early, then it would have been some communication going on. And through the compassion, like I said, and through the willingness to communicate with one another for the sake of understanding, then a whole lot of that would have never built up to what transpired. I don't know how simple, much more simple that is. But to say that a man who is trying to understand both sides, who has a willingness to take into account of each side and what they're going through, and if one breaks and takes the other out, simply because a man who was open enough to look into both sides of the spectrum, that does not imply that he justified the murder. He was giving you a reason why it happened, not a justification of why it happened. There is no justification of this young lady stabbing her manager 15 times in her face and killing her. There's no justification. I was giving you a reason of why it led up to that, because there was no communication. And the reason why there was no communication is because there was no compassion to communicate, and therefore there was no civility sitting up in either one of those. And simply because we did not have those principles of action activating between the two women, it was ignored. And so when she started sending her home without telling her exactly why she's sending her home, and for the young lady looking at her as a bully, and she's using TikTok in order to express this instead of going to the necessary chain of command in McDonald's to complain, because the only thing that they would have told them is we're all going to have a meeting, and so what we're going to do, we're all going to sit down and we're going to get an understanding on why this dysfunction is going on. That's how this could have been avoided. Had there been some compassion, had there been some civility, had there been some communication, then it would have never escalated to what happened. That's the reason of why it happened, not a justification of why it happened. Now, a whole lot of you black women, oh, it ain't no reason why that happened. Yes, it is a reason why that happened. It ain't no justification of what's, that's happening. Nobody justified it. I'm telling you the reason why it escalated. A lot of you have very poor comprehension skills because you're thinking through the screen of your emotions and you're jumping to conclusions based upon how you feel about something. And maybe because you can relate to the manager having a whole lot of children and she's at work working hard. Maybe you fail to understand the reasoning behind it because you couldn't relate to that woman. So much because you and her have a similar circumstance. I get it. I understand it. But regardless of that, there's still a reasoning of why things transpire. And until you take the time to allow yourself to humble yourself and to listen and to analyze things objectively without your coming to an emotional conclusion based upon your similarities, based upon your anger, based upon whatever forces you to draw these quick conclusions based upon how you feel, you're never going to understand why things cultivate to that capacity in which we end up with a very unfortunate circumstance. And that's it. I'm done with this. So you can continue to send me your email. You can do all. I mean, this is my last video on this because I have a whole lot of things that I need to do videos on. And if it's one thing I don't do is hop from one subject to the next without addressing the previous subject, if a good amount of people are still not in understanding of why I said what I said. So you have to understand the distinction between the reason why things happen and which leads up to why things happen. There ain't no justification. No one is justifying anything. But what you have to do, you have to analyze things. You have to listen to both sides. You have to ask each one who are participating in all of this misunderstanding, why do you feel this way? Why is it that we can't get along? Why is whatever the case may be, you have to come to an understanding. If you're going to work together, and if she didn't see that the young lady was doing anything to the level of a very insubordinate behavior to the degree she could have fired her, I feel as though that could have been worked out between the two. Instead of sending her home early, talk to one another. And that goes for any circumstance that we are involved in this life journey. I don't know any more way that I can simplify this other than what I just said. So everyone, have a good night. And if this doesn't explain what is meant by it, tough, because I'm not gonna I'm not going to deal with the subject any further because there are far more important things for me, according to my understanding, that I need to give my attention to. So with that being said, everyone have a good night and one stay tuned. Always say.